Oh my god, you guys, what is up? I'm back with another genius Invokation TCG video. Yes, I know you guys just ate up the last one and we're just like, I need more. And I hear you, but you know, you had to let me cook. I know it's been a month, but I had to cook because today I'm using a deck that is not really good, but it is pretty fun. It has both Beto and Kokomi, which are contenders for, if not undisputed, bottom 2 characters. And then it also has Quicken, who is not a bottom 2 character, and is also very cute. The main idea of this deck is to spend rounds 1 and 2 charging Beto's Elemental Burst, which is called Stormbreaker, while also setting up ramp cards like Libin and Paimon, Chef Mao, the whole shebang, and then on the start of round 3 you pop Stormbreaker,
Time is against us.
which triggers Thunder Beast's Charge. And in case you don't know what that does, and I don't blame you because you've probably used Beto maybe like once max or not at all before seeing this video, is that after a normal attack you deal an extra point of electric damage. Think Xingqiu Rain Cutter, except infinite, except not really infinite because you only have 2 rounds to use it. But anyways, Kokomi makes use of that because her normal attacks deal Hydro damage, which means every normal attack triggers Electrocharged, and that reaction deals piercing damage, which is AoE damage. And then if she gets enough dice, she can even use her own Elemental Burst, which will boost the damage of her own normal attacks, and then also make those normal attacks heal the whole team. Thunder Beast's Charge also reduces damage taken by 1, but only if that attack would have dealt at least 3 damage to begin with, but that doesn't matter. What does matter is that 1 is a lot of damage. Yes, remember from the first video? 1 is a lot of damage, so it's just a beautiful synergy with absolutely no weaknesses whatsoever. Yeah, you spend the start of round 3 and the entirety of round 4 just hammering away with Kokomi, and then if it gets to round 5 plus, Quicken can potentially take care of business with Starward Sword, assuming you have unused energy cards. The entirety of round 1 passed while I was explaining the deck, but again, the first 2 rounds are for you to charge Beto's Elemental Burst.
Let's go.
Ideally, you will end round 2 first, while also having both ramp set up and having Stormbreaker fully charged. The problem with this is that most decent opponents will not just let Beto sit there looking pretty for 2 rounds. She is very scared of burst damage, and Quicken decks are quite good at that, so I switched to Quicken, and then I killed his Oz with the awesome Hu Tao card, while also setting up card ramp with Libin. Unfortunately, I don't get any energy cards, which means that I have to choose between fully charging Stormbreaker this round and not getting Libin, or getting Libin and not fully charging Stormbreaker. I opt for the latter since I have Avoni's Cathedral and Lotus Flower Crisp to help shrug off the damage he does. Even with the damage reduction from last round, Beto was still at risk of being KO'd this round. He doesn't even need to do anything fancy really, just 2 elemental skills from Kale or Jade Plume will do it, even without the Quicken. So I try using Tide Caller, which is an awesome skill because it gives Beto 2 shield points. What? Oh, but the shield points only last 1 round. Her skill only does 2 damage. And the attack portion also takes up your whole turn, so you lose momentum.
By royal decree.
I really should have just normal attacked because I quickly realized that Beto is gonna die this round anyways. And also, he could have just done something like Star Signs into Midnight Phantasmagoria, which would have killed Beto and ended the game. He revealed Star Signs on the following round, but I don't know if he just didn't have it on this round or didn't have enough Electro dice for Fischl's Elemental Burst. It is kind of unlikely that he would have that much. or he maybe just didn't even see that possibility. Me personally though, the gears are turning in my head. I end up conceding the fact that Kokomi will only have one round to abuse Thunder Beast's charge, and I do a smart play that I forgot I actually did when rewatching this, but I use Adeptus Temptation, which not only buffs the damage of Beto's elemental burst, but also rerolls my dice, so I end up not having to tune in order to use Stormbreaker. I figured that I would have to sack Kuching at some point, but it was just a better idea to sack Beto first, because that at least gives me a chance at preserving Kuching's health, whereas deciding to sack Kuching in order to get Beto's burst off for 2 rounds was really just a weak idea since Beto doesn't do anything on her own. Here he switches to Kale, which is actually good for me because otherwise I would have been forced out by his elemental burst, since he would have had 4 stacks of his power up thing if I normal attacked into it, thanks to his talent card, and then I would have been 2-shot by anything after the elemental burst. If he did stay, I would have had to sack Kuching again, which is not ideal, but it is what gives me the best odds at winning. At first glance, Kokomi doesn't look all too threatening damage-wise, even with Thunder Beast's charge, but it does add up very quickly with Dice Ramp. In this case, I have Minty Meat Rolls and Chef Mao alongside a Parametric Transformer. He kinda fumbles around, and I'm not gonna spoil it, I'll just let the gameplay speak for itself.
Forever.
Mein Fräulein.
My opponent is very nice because he let me kill all 3 of his guys without forfeiting. Double Anemo control can kind of curb stomp this deck because the forced switches make it so hard to charge Beto's energy, and avoiding this world damage chip is kind of impossible since in order to do that you have to switch to the 1 unit without Hydra on them, but then that unit just dies to the repeated 3 damage attacks, so you're really just delaying the inevitable.
Let's finish this quickly.
Honestly, your best bet is to preserve Kokomi's health as much as possible by saving Lotus Flower Crisp for the end game and timing your ramp so that it starts after Beto and Kuching are both down. That way they can't force you to swap anymore, but that is a lot easier said than done. Mushroom Pizza would generally be better in this matchup, but I think Lotus Flower Crisp edges out just a little bit since its immediacy helps out against burst damage, which is a lot more common than this one swirl deck. Even though this deck doesn't really have huge round 1 burst damage, I still lead Kuching, especially since he wins the coin flip for the first move. That way I can prevent him from getting a swirl round 1 by switching to Beto. I used 2 attacks on this round to charge Beto's energy, since round 2 and onward is just forced switches for days, and as a result, getting 2 energy points on Beto within 1 round is pretty much impossible. After that, I switched to Kuching to preserve Beto's health. In this scenario, it would have been nice if Kuching and Beto had switched places, That is, having Kuching on the left and Beidou on the right, because it would mean his Sucrose would force a switch to Beidou rather than Kokomi if he hit Kuching. I do end up switching their positions later in the video, though not for that specific reason. I'll get into that later. I do also change up the deck composition a few times. These first two games I have Aquila Favonia for Kuching and Favoni's Cathedral, which make the deck more stally and empowers Kuching more in the late game. But after playing a lot, I felt that forgoing Aquila for Magic Guide on Kokomi was better. Since Kokomi attacks so much, you can make use of the damage bonus and really snowball a lot more easily with Gambler's Earrings. Anyways, back to the match. This guy manages to get 9 Anemo dice on round 2. What a cheater. He only had 1 Jade Chamber. He didn't even have to tune anything. Anyways, after he used the Anemo die card, I thought he would go for a 3rd elemental skill, which would have been really bad since it forces Beidou out of the active position again, but instead he goes for the burst summon, which is pretty alright since it would have meant that Beidou could attack next round to fully charge Stormbreaker, but I end up getting a little lucky and pulling the Electro Energy card. That way I can burst immediately.
Eyes on me!
Spending all of my dice on ramp last round really helped me out here, because after he forces the switch to Kuching, Kuching can still damage Sucrose to the point where Kokomi picks up the kill, even after she dies.
Anemo test 6308. Right idea. Wrong time.
Some of you might call me getting minty meat rolls here a high roll, but honestly I was just playing to the probabilities I deserve it for getting a Chang the 9th off and a Liben. Though in hindsight I didn't even need to use it this round in order to do what I did, since if I didn't use it, I still would have been able to switch to Beidou because I had the Electro Die card in hand. On the other hand though, because Kokomi has been chipped so much, I am kind of forced to use Lotus Flower Crisp on the following round, because he still has the potential 2nd Anemo die card which will give him a 3rd attack. I don't know if you can really blame me though, I just wanted to see Kokomi pop off for once.
This isn't good.
If this scenario played out post-patch, I wouldn't have had to use Lotus Flower Crisp here, because Naraid's Ascension would have healed Kokomi for 1 HP. That matters because Galeblade can only do 2 damage max, because Thunder Beast's Targe reduces the damage to 2 down from 3. If I saved minty meat rolls for this round post-patch, I would have been able to win without it going to the next round.
The stars are fading.
I use Adeptus Temptation here just because I want to see the big number, but post-patch it actually would have been required because, well, 1, his gene would have been at 4 HP, not 3 here post-patch. But even if he was at 3 HP again, the elemental burst damage was nerfed to 2. So without the Adeptus Temptation, it would have been a 2-hit KO, but I mean, if we're going to talk about possibilities, the game would have ended the previous round post-patch as well, so this doesn't actually matter. Ah, Ganyu Freeze. Who doesn't love switching off of a frozen character only to be frozen again, and also have your entire team at half health? This matchup honestly isn't that bad if you can believe it. Xingqiu decks basically always lead him, and his personal damage is low, so you can safely normal attack to charge energy alongside him. Tidecaller is also actually decent against him because Xingqiu decks aren't going to switch around your Tidecaller to make sure that they get the 2 damage on you. All they really care about is getting the rain cutter off, so Tidecaller basically leaving Beidou unscathed until he switches is pretty cool. If you end round 1 first against Xingqiu, you can Tidecaller on the first move next round when he has full energy. And again, Xingqiu will probably Rain Cutter into your Tidecaller without a second thought because all they care about is the Rain Swords. But if/when he does that, your counter attack will trigger Electro Charge, which does some pretty nice damage. Unfortunately, I don't do it this game because he wins the coin flip for the first move, and I don't have Blybin in my starting hand who would otherwise justify me not attacking twice. The fact that Ganyu is the primary freezer is also meaningful because she has to use Frostflake Arrow in order to do it with 1 attack. And because Frostflake Arrow costs so much, you can reasonably stall even 2 of them, and then just switch to Kokomi and go ham. There's nothing they can do about it. In case you didn't notice at the start of the game, I did the Quicken and Beidou position switch I was talking about earlier. Besides matching up better against Sucrose, this positioning also makes it so that Elemental Resonance High Voltage, which is the nerd name for the Electro Energy card, it makes it so that that card charges Quicken for energy rather than Kokomi. It's different from Star Signs in that it can be used on the active character even if their energy is full, in which case it will charge the rightmost character's energy instead. With this positioning, it will loop back around and charge Kuching's energy. That's important because I removed Aquila, meaning Kuching is more dependent on her elemental burst to do things in the endgame, and Kokomi can easily charge her elemental burst anyways with her normal attacks. I also removed Favoni's Cathedral in favor of Iron Tongue Tien. His energy overflow works the same way, just that it occurs at the end of the round. Replacing Favoni's Cathedral with an energy card isn't a bad idea, since you don't need the survivability as much if you can charge Stormbreaker more quickly without spending turns, and that means you can increase the odds of ending your round first. Speaking of ending my round first, this is almost a perfect ramp setup. I have Parametric Transformer, Blybin, and Paimon, and I end up getting minty meat rolls as well, so I'm ready to just go goblin mode on this guy next round. I'm not counting the dice in my actions exactly, but I don't use Adeptus Temptation here just because I don't want to accidentally hamstring my normal attacks with Kokomi later. In retrospect, I was able to afford it, which we will see later in the round, but at this moment in time I can't guarantee that it's a good idea. Speaking of things that are potentially not good ideas, he switches to Ganyu and throws off a Frostflake Arrow rather than taking the kill with Chongyun. Since he can't use another freeze this turn, I just switch straight into Kokomi and start caulking all over him.
I have taught you everything I know.
My opponent's mouth is probably agape at what he just witnessed, Kokomi actually doing something. He takes a long time to choose Ganyu here. Looking at my hand here, I
Let's
realized
go.
that I
Time is
was
against
able
us.
to afford Adeptus Temptation, but it was only because I got both the Electro Die and Changing Shifts from Chang the Ninth. If I didn't get the Electro Die, I wouldn't have been able to use another normal attack with Kokomi, assuming I used Adeptus Temptation. And if I didn't get Changing Shifts, then I would have been forced to end round on Kokomi, meaning that he gets a guaranteed freeze off, which kind of sucks because that's the last round of Thunder Beast's Targe.
Take heart. Victory will be ours.
If I had used Adeptus Temptation on the previous round for Beto's Elemental Burst, I would have just straight up won here with Kokomi's Elemental Burst, which would have been so satisfying. Unfortunately, I do not have the Gift of Prophecy, so I don't get to double KO him, and he forfeits, so I don't get the satisfaction of killing all three of his guys. But I did beat Ganyu Freeze. You don't really see Yoimiya Vaporize anymore after she got nerfed, but she's not bad, especially due to her talent, which can let her trigger Vaporize twice with one normal attack. Usually Yoimiya Vape runs double Pyro for the Resonance card, and the potential healing abuse of Bennett's Elemental Burst with Yoimiya's Elemental skill, but this guy has Mona instead. That makes the early game a lot easier for me, since he doesn't have immediate power application nor does he have the Resonance card. The odds of me getting burst down are pretty low. On the other hand, Mona allows him to spread Hydro a lot more easily, which means he can trigger those double Vaporizes a lot more easily, and those will one-shot a character from full health. I slotted in Star Signs for Iron Tongue Tien because I fought an Overload deck and cried when Kuching was getting all of the energy instead of Beto. I was also trying out Mushroom Pizza since it preserves Kuching's health a lot better for late game situations, though obviously it's a lot worse against burst damage compared to Lotus Flower Crisp. I also slightly misplayed my Mulligan. Again, because he lacks early game burst damage, I don't really need the energy cards for Beto, so I could have swapped them out for another chance at ramp like Liben. Round 2, I overcharged Beto's energy, again since I didn't really need those energy cards, but at the same time I wasn't going to spend the Electro Die just to play Paimon round 1 since it means less ramp on Kokomi's turn. I do still think it's worth it to attack here, particularly with Tide Collar since his fully charged Xingqiu is staring me down. He decides that he actually doesn't want to take that electro charge damage, so he switches to Mona. But I don't lose that much tempo from this switch since he used the fast swap earlier. Because of that, he can't switch to Xingqiu with his last die here, since it means I can just put him in the same situation again by ending my round first, and I'm fine doing that since I have ramp in my hand. It might have been a better idea to tune Mushroom Pizza to Electro here,
one, to play the Elemental Resonance High Voltage card for Quicken, but also because the healing doesn't help that much against his one-shot. There's something I haven't talked about yet, but I don't have a segue into it, so I'm just gonna say it now while there's some downtime. That is the question of why use Quicken when Sino, who is arguably a better late game character, exists and is also Electro. The reason for that is his puns are really bad, and then the title of this video wouldn't be as funny if I had him instead of Quicken. Okay, for a real answer, Quicken uses energy cards better than Sino does. I was playing with Sino, not like that. I was using, not like that. I did have Sino in the deck, and there were a lot of situations where he would use both copies of the Ito card, but then he wouldn't want to Elemental Burst since he loses his damage bonus. Quicken has no damage bonus to lose, and her Elemental Burst is arguably better despite costing slightly more since it does AoE damage. And with this deck, you're more likely to be in a situation where you face down multiple low health characters as opposed to one high health character, since Electro Charge deals piercing damage. Sino is still, not bad, since he can also abuse unused minty meat rolls, but in turn, Quicken can also abuse unused Gambler's Earrings to do similar damage output, though obviously it's not as immediate. Anyways, back to the match. My opponent must have been thinking like 30 steps ahead here, because he managed to use Mona's elemental skill, Xingqiu's elemental burst, and Yoimiya's elemental skill with the talent card, while also having enough dice left for one supercharged normal attack. But I was also on the same wavelength. I could have thrown off 3 minty meat rolls normal attacks here, but seeing that possibility, I opted for just one, and then using the last Electro die in my hand to sack Beidou. After Beidou falls, I switch to Quicken because I don't want Kokomi to get Hydro applied on her so soon. He spends the 2 dice from Gamblers to refresh Yoimiya's elemental skill and then switch to Xingqiu. He probably switched to Xingqiu rather than Mona because his elemental skill is cheaper due to the artifact he used earlier. I think it was a better play to go Mona though. Even though her elemental skill does cost 1 die more, you get the fast swap pressure immediately, and Xingqiu damage from his elemental skill isn't relevant because his Yoimiya supercharged normal attack combo was doing 9 damage, so Mona's lesser damage doesn't matter. Here I kind of just have to hope that he doesn't have a fast swap card in his hand, because switching to Quicken makes me lose too much momentum. He swaps to Mona, obviously, to threaten the fast swap pressure, and now I can justify switching to Quicken, since he has to spend 2 dice to pass the turn with switching.
Let's finish this quickly.
The fast swap here is working against him, in a sense, but he can also just take the kill. And then I remember he has Gambler, so I'm like, oh damn, he's gonna be able to attack twice, I guess I lose. No, but then he uses Lotus Flower Crisp for no reason, which means he doesn't have the dice left for a normal attack. I was thinking, wait, does he have a Hydra die? Is he just flexing on me?
The stars are fading.
He reveals that he does not have a Hydra die in his hand by ending his round. So, yeah, he choked. You might be thinking though, okay, if he choked, then why are you showing this game? You didn't win because you were better, you won because he was bad. And for that is because post-patch, I actually would have won this clean. Yoimiya's supercharged normal attack combo did 9 damage to Quicken, but post-patch Xingqiu's rain swords will deal 1 less damage, so a normal attack combo would have done 8. Oh shit, next match, hold on. Anyways, Kokomi's elemental burst post-patch would have healed for 1, so I could have used elemental burst to heal to 9, and he wouldn't have been able to KO me, and then I could have just tuned a die for the normal attack and then reverse swept him anyways. So yeah, I really was just playing game theory optimal, lying in wait for the day that Kokomi isn't completely trash. Though I would have lost both patches if he had the 0 dice food card that increases normal attack damage by 1, but you know, a win is a win, I deserve it for using Kokomi. Okay, now we're going against Noelle double Geo. Usually this deck has Oceanid instead of Xingqiu for Hydro application, but Xingqiu isn't bad if you can believe that. The lead is a bit of a coin flip because Beidou matches decent against Xingqiu but hates going up against Lava Churl since it has such high burst damage early game. So if I think he's going Lava Churl, it's best to lead Quicken, especially since he won the coin flip for the first move. If he led Xingqiu, I would lose momentum by switching to Beidou, though I was moving second anyway, so it's not like I had a lot of momentum to lose to begin with. I did guess right, but maybe he wasn't even thinking about the nuance of the lead and just was planning to swap to Xingqiu anyway since he had Liu Su. I don't get very good ramp in my starting hand. I took out Star Signs this time around and swapped in Chef Mao. I actually took it out of the previous deck, I don't know if I said that, but I was starting to use Quicken as a counter method to early game burst damage, and I felt that I could get away with not running Star Signs by making use of Quicken's health pool. I put Chef Mao back in since I was finding that there were a lot of situations where having a free minty meat rolls would have given me an extra normal attack, and although there were situations where he didn't do anything, the reward was a lot bigger than the risk of using 1 die. My ramp still isn't great here, but it is passable since I have Magic Guide, Chef Mao, and Minty Meat Rolls alongside the Electro die. And also having Lotus Flower Crisp here basically prevents him from getting any kind of surprise OHKO. If I had a ramp card like Libin or Paimon here, I would have used it over Tide Collar. This Tide Collar here is used over normal attack since it prevents more damage if he happens to use a normal attack instead, though I did figure he would probably just go for Breastplate. Ending my round second here isn't really bad since Beidou has enough HP to take a second attack from Noelle.
As a dutiful maid would.
Changing shifts is the best thing to tune here since Beidou is gonna die to a Noelle normal attack anyways. And if I do need a switch, then I can just use one of the Electro dice in my hand if I don't have the dice for it. Keeping Elemental Resonance high voltage is good for the end game, and keeping the fast swap lets me keep up my momentum. After Beidou falls, I switch to Kokomi even though I know she's gonna take a lot of damage from Noelle's last normal attack. I'm setting up a Kuching endgame by having Kokomi deal piercing damage while also keeping Noelle's health low by chipping her shields. This normal attack does basically guarantee that my opponent gets to move first next round, but I do have the Electro die in my hand to swap to Kuching. That way she can sack a hit for Kokomi, and then I can fast swap to Kokomi for a potentially strong elemental burst.
Let's finish this quickly.
Getting Adeptus Temptation here is actually so good because it means if Noelle does anything besides Breastplate, Kokomi will switch in and one-hit KO her with Nereid's Ascension. This wouldn't be the case post-patch though, since Kokomi's Elemental Burst is doing 7 damage here exactly. Noelle would survive with 1 HP afterwards.
I must leave no stone unturned.
He does Breastplate here, so I don't get a one-hit KO, but Kokomi's Elemental Burst still does so much damage it leaves him at 1 HP after the full plate
We'll need
shield,
strategy.
and since he used his dice on Wolf's Gravestone, he can't actually use another attack, I guess unless he uses a Geo die, but then that means he loses Noelle from the Kuching revenge kill. He does have the right card to prevent Noelle from dying here though. Mushroom Pizza does let Noelle survive 1 instance of piercing damage though. Xingqiu is dead for sure. If I had Gambler's Earrings on Kokomi here or even just in hand, I'm pretty sure I would have won.
Played.
Considering that Thunder Beast's Targe ends this round and that Kokomi is at low HP, I opt to just sack her rather than spending the Electro die to switch to Kuching again. Since his Lavatril still has Stone Hide and Stone Force, he'll take 1 less damage while also making a Crystallized Shield, meaning that I'll need at least 3 attacks to take out the rest of his team. And Kuching can potentially do it in less when she has energy cards, which I do get here. You can call the Ito card a high roll, but I call it deserved for getting a bad mulligan. If I didn't have the energy cards this round, I probably would have lost, since his Lawatril's next attack would have definitely just killed Kuching. I did have Liben though, so I could have gotten lucky with some last minute card ramp. At the same time though, he could have had a Geodie and just tuned an Elemental Burst to kill me. But I did have the energy cards in hand, so I do end up pressing the big purple button.
Nowhere to hide.
Yeah, unfortunately that's where this video ends. I wanted to get it out before the new patch, but I got confused by the time zones, and the patch came 1 day sooner than I was expecting. I hope that the past 40 minutes of Copium were enough to convince you that Kokomi might be worth trying out.